The concept of the blood oath is both visceral and symbolic. In the medieval context, blood was considered the essence of life, a divine substance carrying the very spark of one's soul. To pledge blood in service to a society was to offer one's very being, a binding of the corporeal to the metaphysical, a gesture that transcended mere spoken promises. Secret societies, particularly those shrouded in mystery such as the Knights Templar, the Black Monks, and various Hermetic orders, often employed these oaths to establish loyalty that could never be undone. In an era where written contracts could be disputed and allegiances shifted like sand, a blood oath was irrevocable, sealing the initiate's place in a web of secrecy and sacred duty. Initiation ceremonies, of which blood oaths were often the climax, were highly elaborate affairs, designed to impress upon the neophyte the gravity of the society's purpose. These rituals were conducted in secluded locations, sometimes in the shadowed halls of monasteries, in hidden chambers beneath castles, or in the secluded depths of forest clearings. The setting itself was critical. The participants were surrounded by symbols, artifacts, and structures that conveyed both authority and mystery. Candlelight flickered across stone walls inscribed with arcane sigils. Incense filled the air, creating a haze that rendered the surroundings both ethereal and disorienting. Chants and invocations echoed, establishing a rhythm and a sense of ritualized transcendence. In these carefully curated spaces, the boundaries between the mundane and the sacred were intentionally blurred. The ceremony often began with a period of purification or symbolic death. Initiates might be required to fast for several days, endure physical trials, or undergo symbolic deaths, where they were blindfolded, led through dark corridors, and subjected to the ritualistic stripping away of their former identities. This symbolic death served multiple purposes. It severed ties to the outside world, reinforced the gravity of the commitment, and psychologically prepared the initiate to embrace the society's secrets as a form of spiritual rebirth. Once prepared, the initiate would be presented with the society's symbols and teachings. These could include sacred texts, ritual daggers, ceremonial robes, or esoteric icons whose meanings were intentionally obscured to the uninitiated. Each object carried layers of symbolism. A dagger might represent both the power to defend the brotherhood and the sacred responsibility of judgment. A robe could signify the shedding of worldly identity and the assumption of a new spiritual role. These objects were often infused with historical and mystical significance, sometimes said to carry blessings, curses, or even a form of inherited spiritual authority from previous generations of members. The act of the blood oath itself was both literal and symbolic. A small incision might be made on the palm or forearm of the initiate, and the blood collected in a ceremonial vessel, sometimes combined with wine, ink, or consecrated water. The blood could then be applied to a sacred text, a symbol etched into stone, or the hands of fellow members, sealing the oath. This physical act of sharing blood created a tangible connection between the individual and the society, a binding that was understood to be spiritual as well as legal. The language used in the oath was often formal and archaic, invoking divine witnesses, supernatural forces, and the eternal vigilance of the brotherhood. To break such an oath was not merely treason, it was a spiritual violation, believed to invite both earthly punishment and metaphysical retribution. The symbolism of the blood oath extended beyond the personal. It reinforced the hierarchy and cohesion of the society. Senior members, those who had themselves undergone the full ritual, acted as witnesses and guides, demonstrating the power and continuity of the order. The shared blood was not only a link between individual members, but a representation of the collective life force of the society itself. In many accounts, these oaths were believed to create a literal spiritual bond, making each member responsible for the welfare and secrecy of the others. Loyalty was not optional. It was encoded into the very essence of the initiate's being. Medieval chroniclers, often writing in secrecy or under threat of persecution, provide glimpses into these ceremonies. While some accounts mix fact and legend, recurring themes emerge: secrecy, solemnity, and the interplay between fear and reverence. The fear was both psychological and physical. Initiates were reminded that betrayal could result in expulsion, dishonor, or even death. Yet there was also awe, the sense that they had entered a lineage of wisdom and power stretching across generations, a hidden current of knowledge that the outside world would never fully understand. Rituals were often staged to heighten the dramatic effect. The use of masks and hoods was common, obscuring the identities of both participants and observers. Chants and invocations might include archaic languages or cryptic phrases designed to sound sacred or otherworldly. Light and shadow were carefully manipulated, casting flickering forms on the walls, making familiar objects appear mystical. Some ceremonies reportedly included symbolic representations of life, death, and cosmic forces, such as miniature models of the sun, moon, and planets, or arrangements mimicking celestial constellations. These were not mere theatrical devices. They were meant to connect the initiate to universal truths, emphasizing that membership in the society was a participation in something greater than oneself. In some societies, the oath and initiation were linked to trials of courage or skill. Initiates might be required to navigate dark tunnels, endure sensory deprivation, or confront symbolic representations of their fears. The purpose was psychological as well as spiritual: to strip away doubt, to test commitment, and to demonstrate the initiate's worthiness to enter the hidden world of the society. These trials, though often dangerous, were essential in creating a shared understanding that membership was both a privilege and a profound responsibility. The secrecy surrounding these oaths and rituals was absolute. Members were sworn to silence regarding the specifics of the ceremonies, the identities of participants, and the symbolic meanings embedded in each gesture. Breach of this secrecy was considered the gravest offense, punishable by expulsion or death, and often thought to invite supernatural retribution. The combination of secrecy, ritualized commitment, and symbolic blood created an aura of power around the society, reinforcing its authority both internally and in the perception of outsiders. Over time, these ceremonies evolved, incorporating elements from local folklore, religious rites, and mystical philosophies. For example, some orders adopted Christian symbolism, invoking saints or angels as witnesses to the oath, while simultaneously drawing on pre-Christian traditions of sacred blood and sacred geometry. Others integrated elements of alchemy or astrology, suggesting that the oath connected the initiate not only to the society, but also to hidden cosmic forces. The layering of these influences made each ceremony unique, yet consistent in its core function: to bind the individual to a secret, eternal covenant. Despite the centuries that have passed, the echoes of these ceremonies remain. Stories of hooded figures, blood-streaked altars, and mystical oaths have persisted in both historical accounts and folklore. While some aspects may be exaggerated or mythologized, the underlying practices reflect a sophisticated understanding of psychology, symbolism, and social cohesion. The blood oath was not simply a dramatic gesture. It was a carefully constructed ritual that ensured loyalty, secrecy, and the perpetuation of knowledge and authority. In conclusion, blood oaths and initiation ceremonies were at the heart of medieval secret societies, blending symbolism, psychology, and ritual to forge bonds that were both spiritual and practical. They provided a means of ensuring loyalty in a world rife with political and social uncertainty, while also creating an environment in which knowledge, power, and mystical insight could be transmitted across generations. The combination of fear, reverence, secrecy, and shared experience created a potent system of commitment that shaped the hidden currents of medieval life. These ceremonies, steeped in mystery and danger, continue to capture the imagination today, serving as a reminder of the lengths to which humans have gone to safeguard secrets, secure loyalty, and connect with forces greater than themselves.